Most people believe being middle class means being safe. A stable job, a monthly salary, and a settled life. But what if that safety is actually a slow-moving trap? A system where you're constantly busy, constantly tired, and constantly worried about money, yet never truly moving forward. This video is not about blaming anyone. It's about exposing a structure that looks normal, feels comfortable, and quietly limits your freedom. A structure that trains you to survive, not to grow. To obey, not to build. And the scary part? Most people don't even realize they're inside it. Today, we're breaking down the middle class trap. How it works, why smart people get stuck in it, and what actually needs to change if you want real financial and time freedom. No motivation, no fantasies, just logic, systems, and reality. What the middle class trap really is. The middle class trap is not about being lazy, unlucky, or not smart enough. It's a systemic loop, a cycle where people earn just enough to survive, maybe even look successful from the outside, but never enough to actually escape financial pressure. You're busy all the time, stressed most of the time, and still one medical bill or job loss away from panic. That's not freedom. That's a trap with better furniture. From childhood, middle-class people are trained to follow a specific script: study hard, get good marks, find a stable job, buy things on EMI, and repeat this for 30 to 40 years. On paper, this sounds logical. In reality, it converts human potential into monthly installments. The system rewards obedience, not leverage. You trade time for money, but your income has a ceiling, while expenses keep inflating without mercy. The most dangerous part? This trap feels safe. You're not starving, so you don't panic. You're not rich, so you keep hoping. That emotional middle zone kills urgency. You delay risks, postpone learning real money skills, and keep telling yourself, "I'll figure it out later." But later quietly becomes never. Comfort slowly replaces ambition, and routine replaces growth. And here's the brutal truth. The middle class doesn't lack intelligence, it lacks options. When your survival depends on a monthly salary, you can't think freely. You can't challenge your boss, question the system, or take long-term bets. Fear becomes your financial advisor. This is where the trap tightens, not with chains, but with salaries, EMIs, and social approval. How education accidentally builds the trap. Most people assume education is the escape route. Ironically, for the middle class, it often becomes the entry point into the trap. Schools and colleges don't teach how money actually works. They teach how to qualify for employment. You're trained to be selected, not to select. Marks matter, degrees matter, but ownership, leverage, and systems? Completely ignored. From day one, the message is clear. Follow instructions, don't question authority, memorize, repeat, pass. This conditioning creates excellent employees, but terrible independent thinkers. You learn how to solve textbook problems, not real-world financial ones. Nobody teaches you how inflation eats savings, how debt compounds against you, or how assets quietly pay their owners while workers hustle harder every year. Another issue is delayed reality. Education postpones financial exposure until your mid-20s. By the time you start earning, expectations are already stacked: family pressure, social comparison, lifestyle upgrades. You're not entering the world with curiosity, you're entering with responsibility overload. Risk-taking becomes irresponsible, even when it's rational and calculated. Worst of all, education sells certainty in an uncertain world. Do this degree and you're set. That promise is outdated. Markets change faster than syllabi. Skills expire, but EMIs don't. So people cling to degrees like life jackets, even when the ship has already changed direction. That's how education, unintentionally, becomes the first brick in the middle-class trap. The salary illusion and the comfort lie. A salary feels like progress. Every month, money hits your account, and your brain relaxes. That dopamine hit creates an illusion of stability. But stability is not the same as security. A salary is just a short-term contract between your time and someone else's system. The moment that system doesn't need you, the income stops. No backup, no mercy. The middle class is taught to worship increments. A 10% hike feels like a win, even when inflation is eating 7 to 8% silently. In real terms, you're barely moving forward, sometimes even moving backward. But because the number on paper increases, people celebrate. This is how the trap disguises stagnation as growth. Comfort is the real enemy here. Fixed income leads to predictable spending. Predictable spending leads to lifestyle inflation. Bigger phone, better clothes, nicer house, all financed through EMIs. The salary rises, but obligations rise faster. Soon, your income doesn't belong to you. It's pre-allocated to banks, landlords, and subscriptions before you even see it. The lie is that comfort equals success. In reality, comfort often kills hunger. When survival is handled, curiosity dies. You stop asking dangerous questions like, what if I lose this job? Or, can I build something of my own? The salary becomes a soft cage, no bars, no locks, just a routine you're scared to break. EMIs, the invisible handcuffs. EMIs are marketed as convenience, but functionally, they're long-term obedience contracts. Buy now, pay later sounds harmless, until later becomes the rest of your working life. The middle class doesn't buy things, it commits future labor in advance. Your next 24, 36, or 240 months are already sold. The dangerous part is that EMIs normalize debt. Monthly deductions feel small, so the brain underestimates the total cost. A house, a car, gadgets, each EMI looks manageable alone. Together, they form a financial chokehold. You can't quit a job you hate, can't take risks, can't pause to reskill, because the bank doesn't care about your mental health or dreams. EMIs also destroy bargaining power. When you need the salary to survive, you lose freedom. You accept bad work conditions, unpaid overtime, and disrespect because default is not an option. This is how debt silently converts free citizens into compliant workers, without force, without drama. What's worse is social pressure. EMIs are celebrated as milestones: own house by 30, car before marriage. Nobody asks whether ownership came with independence or dependency. The middle class trap tightens here. The more you settle, the harder it becomes to move. Not because you're incapable, but because you're financially restrained. Time poverty, the hidden cost no one talks about. The middle class trap doesn't just steal money, it steals time. Long working hours, daily commutes, constant fatigue. By the time you're free, your brain is already exhausted. You technically have free time, but practically, you have no energy. This is time poverty, and it's one of the most underestimated weapons of the system. When all your best hours are sold to a job, growth gets postponed to someday. Learning new skills, building side projects, experimenting with ideas, all of it requires mental freshness. But the system drains you just enough to keep you functional, not creative. You're tired, not broken. And that's intentional. Weekends don't save you either. They're spent recovering, not building. Scrolling replaces thinking. Entertainment replaces exploration. This isn't laziness, it's depletion. A brain under constant stress chooses comfort over challenge. The trap thrives not because people lack ambition, but because they lack usable time. Over years, this compounds brutally. Skills don't upgrade, options don't expand. Meanwhile, responsibilities increase: family, aging parents, kids. The cost of failure rises, and the window for risk closes. Time poverty ensures that by the time you see the trap clearly, you're already deep inside it. Social conditioning and the fear of standing out. The middle class isn't controlled by laws or force, it's controlled by social conditioning. From relatives to neighbors to society at large, there's a silent rulebook. Don't stand out too much, don't take crazy risks, don't fail publicly. Stability is praised, experimentation is mocked. Anyone who steps off the standard path is immediately questioned. What about job security? What will people say? Why can't you live normally? These aren't innocent questions, they're fear being passed down like tradition. Most people giving this advice never escaped the trap themselves, but they defend it fiercely because challenging it would mean questioning their own life choices. This creates herd behavior. People copy each other's decisions, not because they're optimal, but because they're socially validated. Same degrees, same jobs, same weddings, same loans. Individual thinking gets replaced by collective comfort. Standing out feels dangerous, even when standing still is riskier. The irony is that progress has always come from outliers, not conformists. But the middle-class environment punishes deviation early and rewards conformity immediately. So people choose short-term approval over long-term freedom. Fear of judgment quietly becomes stronger than fear of lifelong financial stress, and the trap remains intact. No asset mindset. Working for money instead of owning systems. The biggest flaw in the middle-class mindset is this. Money is seen as something you earn, not something that can work. Income is active, linear, and capped. You show up, you get paid. Stop showing up, money stops. This model feels fair, but it's mathematically weak in the long run. Assets are different. They generate value without direct daily effort: businesses, equity, intellectual property, scalable systems. But these are rarely discussed in middle-class circles. Why? Because assets require delayed gratification, uncertainty, and learning beyond formal education. The middle class is trained to avoid all three. Instead of buying assets, money flows into liabilities that look like assets: houses that don't generate income, cars that depreciate, gadgets that lose value fast. These purchases increase expenses, not cash flow. So even with higher income, net freedom doesn't improve. You're richer on paper, poorer in flexibility. Without assets, retirement becomes a fantasy built on hope and inflation-adjusted lies. You keep working not because you want to, but because you must. The trap here is brutal. The system doesn't fail you. You follow it perfectly, and that's why you lose. Working harder inside a broken model doesn't fix it. Risk aversion, playing not to lose instead of playing to win. The middle class is obsessed with safety. Every decision is filtered through one question: what if this fails? That mindset sounds responsible, but over time it becomes self-sabotage. When your entire strategy is avoiding loss, you automatically give up the possibility of outsized gains. Risk aversion isn't natural, it's trained. Years of conditional rewards teach people that mistakes are dangerous. Fail an exam, you're punished. Choose the wrong path, you're judged. So by adulthood, experimentation feels like threat, not opportunity. The safest option becomes the default, even when it's statistically the weakest. But here's the reality: avoiding risk doesn't eliminate danger, it postpones it. Inflation, automation, layoffs, health issues, these risks don't ask for permission. Playing safe in a rapidly changing world is itself a high-risk strategy. The middle-class trap thrives because people fear visible failure more than invisible stagnation. Winning requires asymmetric bets: small downside, large upside. Skills, side projects, digital assets, scalable ideas. But these require tolerance for uncertainty. The moment you accept that short-term instability can buy long-term freedom, the trap starts cracking. Until then, safety keeps you stuck.